warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Head of the Health Behavior, Environment, and Social Medicine Department, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Profesor Dr. Anda Yayi Surya Prabandari, Master of Science, Doctor of Philosophy, the Honorable Coordinator of Drinking Water and Sanitation, the Directorate of Housing and Settlements, Indonesian Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas, Ibu Nur Aisyah Nasution, Sarjana Teknik Master of Science, the Honorable Professor Dr. Juliet Willets from Institute for Sustainable Futures, University of Technology, Sydney, the Honorable Professor Sri Irianti, Sarjana Kesehatan Masyarakat, Master of Philosophy, Doctor of Philosophy from National Research and Innovation Agency, and also the participants, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wednesday webinar by the Public Health Program, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia. And my name is Ain Azizah, and I will be your host for today. The topic of today's webinar is progress on SDG 6 clean water and sanitation in Indonesia and how academia can contribute to that. And before we start, I would like to remind you to please use your real name, not an alias or the device name. And also, please fill in the attendance form that will be available in the chat box later. And please mute your microphone unless the moderator asks you to do so in the discussion session. If you have any question, please kindly write your question in the chat box and don't forget to also write your name. And okay, now we are going to listen to the opening remark by the head of the Health Behavior, Environment and Social Medicine Department. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Anda Yayi Surya Prabandari, Master of Science, Doctor of Philosophy.
Okay, thank you very much for Aini to give a chance to me to give an opening for today's seminar. So good morning, everybody. Greeting from Yogyakarta, and thank you very much first for Honorable Professor Dr. Juliet Willets from Institute of for Sustainable Futures, University of Technology, Sydney. Honorable Prof. Sri Irianti, Sarjana Kesehatan Masyarakat, Master of Philosophy, Doctor of Philosophy from the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, as well as Honorable Ibu Nur Aisyah Nasution, the Coordinator of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Bappenas, for contributing in the Wednesday seminar that regularly we conduct every 3 weeks in our department, but it is hoped that all students from the study program, graduate program of public health from all majoring can join this seminar. And thank you for being a speaker for the seminar today that entitled Progress on SDG 6 Clean Water and Sanitation in Indonesia and how academia can contribute to that. In our study program of public health, we have measuring of health, environmental health. That one of the lecturer is Dr. Daniel. I'm sorry, this is just, I'm sorry, I just in the middle of the lecture actually. Yeah, and then I just go out and then just give speech. And then again, thank you very much for your contribution for today for the webinar of the Department of Health Behavior, Environment and Social Medicine. And as I said that we have the measuring of environmental health where Dr. Daniel, Master of Science, is also one of our lecturer and become the moderator today. So I hope that your contribution in this seminar will give or aware, increasing not only awareness, but also increasing knowledge of our students and all participants that join and participate in this seminar. And we also apology if there is something that not going well in this seminar. And I also would like to thank to all committee that already prepare the seminar. And for all participants, I also thank for your participation today. And I hope this seminar will be fruitful and also give a lot of beneficence for all of you. So again, thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I open the seminar. Thank you and return back to Mbak Aini.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Yai, for your warm opening remark for today's session of Wednesday webinar. And ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to our main agenda, that is the presentation and the discussion session. And from now on, all the presentation and discussion will be moderated by our moderator, Dr. Daniel, Master of Science. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Dr. Daniel.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you Mbak Aini for the opening and Bu Yayi for the opening speech. And good morning everyone. It's my pleasure to be your moderator today. I'm Dani, as already mentioned before, introduced briefly by our department head. And again, I welcome you to this Wednesday webinar with very exciting topic, with very experienced speakers. We have international and national speakers. And we're going to talk about the progress on SDG 6 in Indonesia. And I hope that we can learn a lot of things from our wonderful speakers. They are very experienced. They have a lot of things, knowledge, and etc. So I hope that, we can learn many things from them. Maybe they can share their passion also to us. So we are more excited to help the government, to help everyone in Indonesia to reach the target, the SDG target. And the rundown for today is we will have 3 consecutive presentations from 3 speakers, and then we will continue with the Q&A session. So I encourage again everyone, as already mentioned by the MC, that you can type any questions. The rule is there is no stupid questions. So feel free to ask any questions to us, to share your opinion, to share your thoughts on this topic. Just type it in the chat box. You can send it to me directly or to MC Mbak Aini or to everyone, and we will read them all during the Q&A session, okay? So you can just type it in Bahasa, in English, doesn't matter to us. In Bahasa, we will try to translate it into English. And yes, I think we will continue with the presentations, but first I want to greet all speakers. Good morning, good afternoon, Bu Aisyah, Professor Juliet, and Professor Sri.
Pagi, Pak Daniel.
Pagi.
Good morning, Pak Dani.
Morning, Bu Sri. Good afternoon, maybe from Australia, Professor Juliet.
Yeah, maybe Sian already had lunch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. And in front of you, there are 100 students, not only students, general audience. I think all of us are very, very hungry to eat everything that you provide to us today. So I hope that this webinar today will be very fruitful, as already mentioned by our department head, and very exciting discussion. So please stay with us until the end of the session. And I hope that there will be very interesting discussion during the Q&A session. And you have time for more or less 20 minutes. And sorry that I will interrupt you. I will remind you if the time left is more or less 2 minutes. We don't really have a lot of time for the webinar. And I think we can continue with the first speakers. And the first speaker is Bu Aisyah from Bapras.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Juliet.
Sorry, Bu Aisyah, can I introduce you a bit? So wait a second. Okay. I have to check whether it's already. Let me share my screen. Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen right now. Still waiting. Okay. It's already there, or maybe I can share my screen. Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen. It's there?
Yep. Good. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. The first speaker is Bu Nur Aisyah Nasution, and yeah, she is the coordinator of drinking water and sanitation, Indonesian Ministry of National Development Planning, or Bappenas. And yes, she obtained her Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering from Institute Technology Bandung, and then continued to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, USA, one of the leading institute in WASP in USA. And yes, she's very experienced. She involved in many projects, national, international projects, collaborating with international organizations, KIAT, UNICEF, WHO, etc. And if you are familiar with PAMSIMAS, she involves also in PAMSIMAS a lot. And yeah, she has one of very nice journal about the water quality testing in Yogyakarta. So we are in Yogyakarta right now. And this is very nice journal, one of the initiative, a very good initiative to conduct water quality testing in Indonesia. So I encourage everyone to read this journal if you want to know the situations more or less, especially if you are in Yogyakarta. And yes, I think I can hand over to Bu Aisyah.
Okay.
The floor is yours for 20 minutes.
Thank you. Saya manggilnya biasanya Mas Daniel ya. So I can call you Mas Daniel even though it's Dr. Daniel. And hello, good morning Ibu Yayi, Juliet, and Busri. Hope everyone is healthy, including all the participants here. Of course, I am Aisyah, and then I will bring you through the journey maybe, like to more comprehend and understand what is SDG 6.1 and 6.2 and what is our condition right now. So let me share my screen first, and then please let me know if you already can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So this is as an introduction that actually our vice president, like 3 months ago, Juliet, you were there during an event called Senior Minister Meeting, where like around approximately 60 ministers from around the world come to Indonesia and talk about water and sanitation and WASH. And then our vice president say and really punctuated that the WASH sector is a priority for our country, for ourselves. And then, of course, we cannot achieve the green economy. We cannot become a rich country if we do not solve this safely managed water and sanitation. So I do think this is our work, and then I appreciate and very thankful to join with all the UGM colleague in this morning. And then, of course, at the meeting, also our Ministry of Public Works also mentioned in a more detail that we are committed to strengthen our political will for the WASH sectors. And then, of course, we have to develop and ensure that the monitoring for the WASH sector that is equitable and also really put the community, engage with the community. This is important. And also we need to ensure that the WASH development in Indonesia is really already adapted and also already integrated the climate change resiliency. And then the last one is how we are as the government and the stakeholders find the new way, the new innovative for financing this sector, because the gap is still there. So why I bring this for commitment as an introductory of our meeting this morning, because I hope and I do think one of this webinar is also one of the things where the academia, especially in this UGM, also wants to ensure that all this commitment is become our commitment, not only the government commitment or maybe the donor commitment, but this is all the stakeholders commitment, including academia and of course the community itself. And the second thing that I just want to remind why in this event it is also important for us, for the government, I am a planner. I work for a Bapenas. So the things that are really important to make a good plan is, of course, is based on data and evidence. One of the paper that is just mentioned by Dr. Daniel, it is actually our way. We can call it a blazing, because that's the really a method where we find a way how to measure the data, collect the evidence that we are still having a big problem on safely managed water, and then those effort that we put in the not only in the paper, but also finding the way how we measure for measuring the national safely managed drinking water access. It is become a policies that now we echo to all the stakeholders that we need to move forward and then ensure that our own mission and effort targeted into ensuring the universal access of a wash for all. And then, of course, the thing that we really want to achieve is the political will from the highest decision maker in Indonesia. So we will not see again people, if not only the poor but also the rich that still do not have access to safely manage or wash. This is maybe all the regulations. I hope and I believe all the participants here, especially the students maybe, and all the academia knows the regulations that are already mandated. And this is our commitment as we also did in SDGs 2016, and then how it's already internalized in many regulations here in Indonesia. So our job, our way is how to ensure all these regulations and mandated can be fulfilled to achieve water and sanitation in Indonesia. So in terms of SDG 6.1, which is the universal access for safely managed drinking water, this is something that we need to achieve. I will not go into the details, but our target is on the top row. This the dark blue, the access aman or safely managed water. So all of our effort need to ensure that all people, not only in the household, but also in the office, in the health facilities, in the school, in the university, in UGM, in everywhere you go, in every places here in Indonesia, we have to ensure that we can access improved water. We can access the safely managed water. And how we measure that safely managed water it already achieved is by 4 criteria that need to be all fulfilled. First one, of course, having improved water, mainly through pipe system and maybe the non-pipe one. But the non-pipe, we are still have to kind of like really build or develop a more way to ensure the non-pipe can serve the safely managed water. I will talk about it later. Juliet also here, and also Ibu Sri Rianti is also our colleague that hand in hand we see how the non-pipe can serve to the safely managed water. And back again to the safely managed water, of course, everyone has to have access to improve water. And then those sources of water need to be located on premises. Is this inside the house or at the farthest is in our what do you call in the halaman rumah, in the park lot. And then also the water can be accessed to fulfill our need. Every time we need, not only for drinking, but for other purposes, for the minimal requirement of water every day. And then, of course, this is the most crucial one, that the water that is being used for drinking and non-drinking purposes is meet the health standard, which is free from contamination from from chemical, from physical, and of course from biological contamination. And this is maybe the most issue right now on how we can ensure those pipe and non-pipe can free from contamination. And this is our way forward. And if we see our achievement so far, this is something that we piloted in Yogyakarta like 5 years ago. We piloted that in Yogyakarta, and then now we already have this methodology to measure in at national level. So this is our achievement so far. It is still very much to do to ensure that all people can achieve safely managed water. And if we break down this from 11.8% of the access, most of the household that meet all these all four the criteria is from household that have pipe water. And move to the goals 6.2, that everyone everywhere need to have access to safely managed sanitation. So what is the indicator for that is the top row, that everyone has their own toilet. It of course need to be gooseneck, and then it is at least connected to the sewerage system, either a city-wide scale or maybe at the communal system, or need to be connected to a septic tank that is meet the technical standard, which is we kind of like measure it. Is it the septic tank meet the technical standard? We proxy it like at least it has been emptied once every 3 or 5 years. So this is something that we need to achieve. And now our progress, our achievement is still 7%. So still a lot of things to do, while we only have time lapse until 2030, so like 8 years, 7 years from now. So that's why many things, many effort and many issues need to be entangled so we can achieve all the access to all. While we also have this a lot of issues, climate change, urbanization, everything that maybe will slowing down our effort if we do not have a right strategy and then the right commitment and priority to ensure that WASH will be solved as soon as possible. This is all the strategies. I will not touch into the details, but we always say that to ensure all the people have a WASH access, 5 pillars need to be all established. From the regulations, as an academia, you can advocate your local government or the national government, so they have a set of regulations and policies how to achieve the safely managed water and sanitation, not only from the policies perspective, but also maybe the technical standard, the health standard, and everything. And then the second one on the institutional aspect, the governance. It is also that a very crucial issue, governance, how the local government, the government, and the stakeholders have a really strong governance system to ensure that there are regulator and operator in each city that manage this water and sanitation system. The third one, the technical aspect, of course, one of the things I just talked about with South Kalimantan this morning. One of the things that hampering the South Kalimantan to achieve their safely managed sanitation is because the technology. We are very lacking on the technology that can meet our local context, not only from the perspective of the community, but also from the technical standard. So I think this is really a role of academia to ensure that community and also government, they can have an informed choice. Like now, like for the sanitation, most of the time we only say that if you want to have access to sanitation, build gooseneck and also septic tank. It's something like only that options that now are available. Meanwhile, maybe not. Maybe there's a lot of options that can be implemented in Indonesia, but not yet being analyzed or maybe piloted in a very good way. So this is something also a homework for us to find proper solutions, yeah, with our local context, and of course from the community participation. So this is something that also a big issue in Indonesia, not only from the commitment of the government, but also how the community see that water and sanitation also. First one, of course, they have to have services from their government to ensure that they have access to wash, but also they have to raise their voice that they have to demand this service. If not, maybe the government also not sure if their community need that. So it is a very important, and I think academia also play an important role in raising this awareness. And of course, the last one in financing, yeah, and the fund available to meet the gap. This is also the same thing with for safely managed water. So one of the things that we maybe regularly miss is on how we again ensure our behavior, not only the community but the government behavior, the operator behavior, that we can achieve this safely managed water, and also we can ensure that the system that are already developed, like maybe if we talk about PDAM really can serve this safely managed water. Right now, many PDAM think that they only have a mandate to serve the clean water, so they do not really pay attention what is happening after their production system, whether or not the farthest community has a safely managed water. So this is something that we have to also develop a way forward, yeah, how to ensure this awareness. And in terms of the progress, because this is something that is being asked for my presentations, we can see. So this why we need to really put our attention and effort for achieving 6.1 and 6.2. Like we can see, this is our goal is actually the blue one, and we can see from these 5 years, from 2017, our progress is segitu aja ya. Our decade not really improving. It's only 7%, 7.5, 7.2. Nothing is changed. It is the conclusion, right? If nothing is changed, then actually our way of doing this business is also, it hasn't been changed that much. And how we can ensure we can achieve those targets if we are still doing the same thing. So this is something that we need to change from all stakeholders, and also maybe from academia, how we can ensure this blue color we can achieve for everyone. One of the improvement in the sanitation aspect will be still focusing on how we are free from open defecation. But again, open defecation is only one of the part if we want to achieve the safely managed sanitation. The issue now that we found in the field is people, they already aware that they cannot open defecation, but then the issue of technology, the issue of the affordability, can they build the gooseneck and also safety tank? It is something that that is the issue in the field. That's why we have to ensure, or all those 5 pillars that I just mentioned is all together in place, not only at the local level but also in the government level. So we can achieve this safely managed sanitation. In terms of disparity, we can see from the improved. We haven't talked about the safely managed sanitation. This is the improved sanitation, one of the part of the safely managed sanitation. As we can see, it's blue one. The region with the blue one is very rare. It's maybe only in the South Sulawesi. So actually, in all of the places in Indonesia, not only from the west to the east, not only from the poor to the rich, but this is our problem nationwide. In terms of the open defecation free, again, we see more bad color on the blue one. But if we compare with picture above, we can see that even the behavior change, if there is not equipped with the technical solutions, with the governance, with the regulation, with fund, maybe the behavior will not be lasting. So this is our goal that need a comprehensive solution. Move to the safely managed drinking water. This is again our achievement around 12% at national level, and we can see, actually the biggest proportion is coming from those who has pipe water in their homes. This is something that also a big problem in Indonesia. I think it's many households, each household, maybe if it's in the urban, have a bottle or packaged water in their homes. And they feel, if we already have this access in our home, then we already have adequate drinking water sources. But again, bottled water and packaged water is not an access. It's not a public services. It's only if in foreign seas, in Ibu Juliet country, it's all of beverages. It's actually not a drinking water supply. So we have to also ensure, also from the academia, how this option will be diminished. Because again, we have to rely on the supply system, the public system, like the pipe and the non-pipe. This is something that we have also to build, to develop, so that the non-pipe also can serve the safely managed drinking water. If you can see, this is also our problem in Indonesia, in terms of drinking water. And again, in terms of progress, again, we haven't seen. And if I bring the picture, we have the data since the 90s. It's also the same, like this, the yellow flat line. Like 30 years, what we have been doing is like this. Nothing changed, including the blue color, the dark blue color. This is how people do they already have a pipe water in their homes. And if you can see, it is a stagnant. And if you can see the yellow one, it's, even though the people already have their pipe water, they do not use it as their primary drinking water source. Why? Because in Indonesia, there is no regulations that ensure that people can have a reliable water supply system. So they are still, because not reliable system, they are still depending on the packaged water, the bottled water, or they still have their pump in their house. So this is a really what is systemic issue, and it's a systemic change if we want to ensure everyone has a safely managed drinking water, and we want to have a skyrocketing of pipe coverage. Again, this is in terms of disparity. If we see, like on the pipe water system, we can see a lot of areas still in the orange or red color. So it is again problem in everywhere. And this is our main message in every meeting that we have, especially with the local government, that the most priority right now is to ensure that the pipe water coverage can be leveraged. And after that, after everyone have a pipe water, of course, ensure that the pipe water can deliver the potable water. So this is the strategy to move forward. And if we can see in the bottom picture, the non-pipe system, we can see that red color here, it is the dominant one. So we can see actually most of the people in Indonesia is rely on themselves to achieve their drinking water. So it is like my own problem. If I build a house, if I buy a house, how I can get the water is that's my only decision. There is no government, there is no stakeholders that can help them to ensure them that they connected to pipe at least. So this is our problem, to ensure that this self-supply can be regulated. This is our work together right now with Professor Juliet, yeah, to entangle and to advocate many stakeholders, especially at the national government, that we also need to govern the self-supply system, because even though the water is below your house, is actually the water is not belong to you. The water is a public goods. So of course it to be regulated, but of course we also need to ensure that everyone have to have access to safely managed drinking water. And then maybe to end my presentations is this is the gaps. I only bring pictures. So there's so many gaps that need to fulfill. And I do think the academia can help us, the policymaker, how to to find the data, to find the evidence. The first one on the safely managed sanitation. Actually, we do not know still how to measure that everyone have a safely managed sanitation. If for water, we already did it 5 years ago. We piloted in Yogyakarta. We now have a national methodology. We have the national figure for that. But for safely managed sanitation, it's still not sure. It's on the methodology that we have to implement it. Because again, we only measure that if the septic tank is emptied at least once in every 3 years, or if it is connected to the sewerage system. Well, actually, the definitions of the safely managed sanitation is all this gray water and the black water. It is going back to the environment in a healthy way, yeah, meeting also the effluent standard. We are not there yet. So we only can measure if everyone already have septic tank and also connected to sewer. But we haven't yet measured or calculate, is it the one that already emptied their septic tank and also connected to sewer, their waste is also going back to the environment, is treated before going back to the environment. So it's not polluting, it's not giving pollutions, yeah, to the land, to the water bodies, and everything, and etc. So this is our gaps. So we do not yet know how is our figure right now. Second one, of course, the technology. This is something that we see in many things. Many people already have that access in their home, what we call improved access usually. But then if we see the quality of the water is maybe very, because the water is practiced, high in FA and MN contamination, so many things. Or maybe people that live in the coastal area, they do not have a proper septic tank. They do not know how to build septic tank or maybe on-site sanitations in their area. We also want to see if we can have an on-site sanitation solution where in those on-site system we can treat the black water and gray water without need to be emptied. Now we only think that if it is on-site, that it is need to be regularly emptied and treated in every way in other location. How we can find an on-site solution that can treat the black water and the gray water and then can be going back to the environment without we have to transport it to other location. Maybe this is something that we need to develop moving forward. And then, of course, like how we ensure the behavior of community is changed, how they're willing to connect, to pay to the services that is now already available in their area. PDAM. We still have many PDAM have the idle capacity, including the sewer operator. They still have many idle capacity. One of the things is because community is reluctant to connect to the services. And again, many things like retrofitting our existing system and the evidence. This is the evidence on the how the importance of waste to the economy, to the health. Many literature already said that wash is really important, but it's not in Indonesian context. Mostly it's in a foreign context. So it is something that also we need to bring, especially to to advocate the policy maker on how important is this issue. Like 2 days ago, this is something that I get from my friend that congrats, WASH is already moving way forward because the wash-borne diseases now it is already decreasing. Well, for me, part of myself is happy, part of myself is questioning. Diarrhea is something that is really hard to measure. Not everyone is remember when they have diarrhea, and sometimes diarrhea is related to other diseases. It's only a symptom, and then we can easily get our back healthy if we are get diarrhea. So this is something that I'm not quite sure if we are already good in WASH. We already see our condition. Not everyone already have the access, safely managed one especially, but the disease is already showing decreasing. The first is that my question would be, is it right? How do we already measuring right? Or maybe this is already right number. If it is right number, right methodology, then this is a more challenge to us. Because again, the disease now can be treated, the waterborne disease can be treated by medicine maybe, by our way, better way of life, but not through the WASH improvement. So this is something also that we have to really, connecting the dots, the findings, the data, and everything, and ensure that our strategy forward is something that really can leverage our effort so we can have a country that really free from unimproved water and sanitation access. Daniel, and one of the things that we have done as a collaborative effort, this is we did with Professor Juliet from UTS, and also our colleague from UTS is also doing a study together, like we talk as a Bapenas, what is our gaps and what is the important things that they need to help. And this is something that we are now also still developing, how self-supply can also one of the option for the safely drinking water. So this is how if we work hand in hand, and as a policymaker I also have a more evidence, data, and how the recommendation to move forward. Maybe that's for me, Daniel. Sorry if I take more time to present. Hopefully this can bring our attention to this issue. I will stop my presentation here and go back to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bu Aisyah. Sorry for interrupting you, but yeah, there are a lot of things we can learn, and I hope that the students can get a lot of inspiration also, that there are still a lot of changes to conduct research in WASH, and to help the government to give data, to help them provide them data so they can develop better intervention and policy. And thank you again for your presentations, and we'll continue to the second speaker. And we have Professor Juliet here with us. I hope you can see. Yeah. And she's the research director at University of Technology Sydney Institute for Sustainable Future. And as you can see here, that she is very familiar with Indonesian context. She has a lot of research and collaboration with us. And you can see this is example of her presentation of her journals. You can go directly to her ResearchGate or Google Scholar if you are interested on her research. And I think yes, this is a very brief introductions from me. I hand over to Professor Juliet to give your presentations. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Daniel, and thanks so much, everyone, for the opportunity to speak with you today. Selamat pagi semuanya. So I'll just share my screen. Can you confirm that that's come up?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So I was asked to speak, I guess, on a fairly broad topic about research and international collaboration in Indonesia. So I'm going to take quite a took several steps back to prepare this presentation, and I'm not going to talk about the details of any particular studies. And as Daniel said, if you want to read some of the different studies we've been involved in, there are many, many papers. So what I'm going to cover is in speaking about and thinking about how to address the kinds of inequalities in access to clean water and sanitation that you just heard Aisha present to you. What can we as researchers do? And so my starting point is some of the global trends over time of different types of research that's been done on water, sanitation, hygiene. A few words about what it's like to be involved in international collaboration, at least from my perspective as an outsider. How I see the role of researchers, because like Aisha mentioned, I think we can play a really supportive and useful role, and so how to maximise that, and some ideas on recommendations towards the future. So first of all, on the current trends. So I think looking back in time, so this is now standing at a global standpoint, not just Indonesia. There have been three so far different global efforts to try and put focus on drinking water and more recently on sanitation. So as far back as in the 1970s, it was recognised that this was an area that was lagging. And each of these decades has made big efforts to try and address the issues that Aisha just presented, but not always with fantastic success. I think each time there's been progress, but still more progress to make. So we had the Millennium Development Goals that many countries worked towards, and then we moved to the SDGs, which have these more ambitious targets that were just described. And importantly, something that happened in that timeline is that there was a resolution to decree that there is a human right to safe drinking water and that there is a human right to sanitation. And so those happened in 2010, 2015, respectively, and they are still really yet to be leveraged to the extent that is possible to think about this issue from a human rights perspective. More recently, there is also a human right to a clean and healthy and sustainable environment. And as Aisha just described, unless we know really that a sanitation system is preventing pollution in different forms into the environment, we're not looking after that healthy living environment for people. So then looking at the same sort of timeline, but thinking about global research trends in water and sanitation. So I divided into sort of two main types of research. So one type of research is about how do we help provide this really incredibly important public service? And the other is how do we make this issue higher up on the list for policymakers, and what kind of evidence can support advocacy? So in terms of the first of these, how to provide it, initially a lot of the research was focused within engineering departments and in universities around the world, and also public health, and it was seen as a public health issue. But a fairly narrow scope of research, mostly about the design of the particular technologies, etc., and what kind of technologies worked in what context. Then as we moved into 2010, a little further, behaviour change became very important. People realised that you can provide a toilet to people, but then they won't use it. They'll turn it into a cupboard or use it for some other purpose. There was also an emergence of a focus on the role of the private sector. How could small-scale entrepreneurs or larger private sector play a stronger role in the sector? How could we build better institutional capacity to deliver services and have, as Aisha spoke about, the regulations that help, I guess, the different actors in the system to know what their roles are and to have boundaries to those roles. And then as we move into this next period, WASH research has become even broader. So many more different disciplines, a lot more focus on governance, some focus on accountability between actors and for services, and particularly in relation to the human right. A focus on partnerships between different types of organisations, public-private partnerships, for example. A focus on systems and how to not just look at one part of the delivery, but the entire system and its different layers and actors. A focus on gender and inclusion, because we realised that as I showed, there are inequalities in terms of socioeconomic equalities, but also other types of inclusion, such as people with a disability, or certain perspectives and experiences of women and girls. And lastly, the linkage between WASH and wider water resources management has come to the fore. And with climate change, that's becoming even more accentuated. So you can see a gradual broadening of disciplines in the research that's being done in this area. So then for research evidence to support advocacy, the research evidence to begin with, a lot of what was collected was about the public health rationale. It was about the kind of epidemiological data that Aisha just showed. And the rationale was about we're trying to save lives, we're trying to reduce maternal mortality, etc. And then came, okay, that doesn't seem to be working so much to get enough emphasis on the issue. Maybe we need an economic rationale. And a lot of researchers spent time doing studies to say, for instance, what are the economic costs of sanitation? If we don't have it, what's the loss of productivity, etc. And to try and quantify that and use that as a leverage point. And more recently, lots of discussion within this last years, and particularly in this next week or two, is the climate rationale. How can a society become resilient if it doesn't have a basic service such as water and sanitation? And I and many others have been trying to, I guess, refine the way that we describe that argument to have more of a place in the world of climate policy and adaptation. And then trends on global research. I went actually kind of down history, a little journey in the last few days to looking at books on my shelves to different research that I have from over the years. So this piece, Getting the Basics Right, was one of the first pieces I was involved in. It was some evidence-based advocacy to support the Australian government to invest more in water and sanitation. And ever since then, our government has been investing, and hence our ability to contribute to collaborative research in Indonesia. And there's been a series of conferences, WASH conferences, one of which is in February next year. And looking at the themes of those, they sort of mirror the first timeline I showed of more of a technical focus, then behaviour change, and then broader governance issues. There's been a lot of research around community-led total sanitation, which is embedded in your SDBM approach in Indonesia, produced by IDS in the UK. There was a big shift in thinking in the sector and research around how do we not just think about infrastructure and instead focus on services. And this is a piece of, this is a book. It's produced by IRC in the Netherlands. And that was a real change in mindset in research and in practice to not just think from a technological perspective. Then scaling up multiple use and accountability, again, starting to talk more about governance, talking more about how do we manage not just drinking water requirements, but those against agriculture and other needs, and how do we improve accountability. And then in more recent years, this is an example of work that's around gender and inclusion, which we did with the World Health Organization. And it's, I guess, again, demonstrating how we've moved from a focus on the technical solutions, such as water safety planning, which is widely used in Indonesia, but how do we bring in the social elements of that and different voices, the different needs of different groups in a society, and how do we, I guess, integrate both social sciences and technical engineering thinking. There are many different academic journals that you can seek to publish in. There are more and more options for this. Many of you may already be familiar with, it's a bit hiding underneath here, but the International Water Association's WASH Journal for Development. But more recently, this PLOS Water exists, and so does NPJ Clean Water. So I guess I'd really encourage you to look at these diverse options for international journals. And the one at the bottom, Water Alternatives, is a great one for things about questioning more from the regulatory or the policy side how things work. So lastly, in this little chunk, I just wanted to make sure people are aware of these two reports recent reports at the global level on drinking water and on sanitation, and they have a lot of the arguments to use with policymakers. So you can draw on those arguments in engaging with government at any level. So moving to international research collaboration. Again, I told you I went down memory lane a little bit. I found some photos from when I first came to Indonesia. So I first came in 2008. It's a very long time ago. And I was doing research for the Australian government to look at what were civil society organisations doing in terms of implementation. And I visited Mercy Corps in Jakarta. I actually came to Yogyakarta and I visited Border. So I did a lot of interviews with different NGOs doing wonderful work in different parts of Indonesia. And then later after that, I was one of the ways as an international researcher, I was able to come and to start my first research was also to be involved in evaluations. And these other two pictures are from an evaluation of Pamsimas in 2012, long ago. And again, as an external, someone from outside Indonesia, it gave me a really great insight into some of the challenges and problems and research questions that needed to be addressed in Indonesia. And so I thought it might be helpful for you to think about how to construct or set up international research collaboration. And there are different pathways for that. There are different ways that such research could be funded. So there are many donors that are active in implementation programs, such as USAID, such as our government, there's the World Bank, there's ADB. So they are often doing evaluations of different time. They've often got analysis support they need. So those are the areas that, you know, the sort of non-traditional research, but still analytical work that you can think about doing in order to do this kind of research. There are also research grants from many different sources, or sometimes different groups will commission research projects. So those are all, you know, you need a funding source for any of those, but the bottom part of institutional linkages is another way to have international research collaboration in WASH. So we're moving towards having PhD students that may be co-supervised across Australian and Indonesian institutions. We can have visiting fellows back and forth, guest lectures such as this. So I think we shouldn't be held back if there isn't money. It doesn't mean we can't still collaborate internationally. We should find other pathways to make sure that that's possible. And some further roles that for me I've shared with other Indonesians has been writing papers together, co-editing a special issue. So for instance, with Morva Al-Afghani, we were co-editors of this International Water Association journal. And then there's always conferences coming up and training sessions one can create together. And one thing I did want to mention in terms of working with international organisations, we, as a high-income country, have been really looking at how can we make sure we're doing research that builds local capacity and is in a decolonised approach, that it's not about the high-income country researchers doing all the leading, etc., and doing all the writing, but instead really ensuring that in partnerships, it's the local institutions, so the Indonesian institutions in leadership roles and co-designing or leading designing. And these are two different publications we've developed of this nature. And I think if you're entering into international collaboration, some international researchers will have thought of this and will be trying to step back and not take the lead, but others may assume that they should be in the lead. And I would encourage you to read these. They talk about different ways of working and to make sure you stay in the driver's seat as Indonesian researchers. So moving on to the role of researchers in 6.1 and 6.2. So I have like super, what would I call it? Aisha's already given you way more detail on this picture than I will give. So she showed you the detail for Indonesia of how for safely managed water supply, we there's a very low percentage, and at the moment it's not yet captured in the global data, which is why there's no dark blue on this graph. But at least in this graph you can start to see a picture of where Indonesia sits against other countries. And you know, you could think about looking into, so what are the Philippines doing differently? For instance, so countries that have progressed and that may have some similarities to Indonesia, what is it that is being done that perhaps Indonesia could replicate? And as I just spoke about, for safe management, we do need to shift to have way more focus on water quality. I think it's been something that with the MDGs was not really considered, but the better we understand what's happening with water quality, both in pipe systems, in water bodies, and in self-supply, the better able we are to move towards safely managed water. And as Aisha said, move people away from needing to buy bottled water that's in plastic containers, that's building private sector. Drinking water should be a public service. So my advice here is water quality is going to be a really important and central area for researchers to focus on. And then for sanitation, also Aisha already painted this picture that safely managed is incredibly challenging, and does mean that we need to look at the whole chain, not just at the containment system at a household. We need to look at new or different technologies. How can we better recycle water? Especially in water scarce areas, how can we make sure we're reusing nutrients? How can we make sure we're capturing energy from sanitation waste and turn it into a resource? So there's a lot of shifts in thinking in how to make more of a circular economy around sanitation and not have this sort of end of pipe contamination of the environment, but instead have new resources. And as Aisha also presented, there are huge inequalities. So again, for researchers, a focus on how can we narrow this gap. We've got a huge disparity here in basic sanitation, where poorest 12 quintiles are down at 40% and the richest at more than 95%. How can we narrow that so that it's a fairer society where everyone has access to this basic service? And the way I see role of researchers is that we have to engage. It's not around doing a piece of research in a corner only with researchers involved. We need to reach out and have relationships with other people who are working to implement and to change access to water and sanitation. And that could be any of the actors that I've put on here, and there could be many more as well. There are many civil society organizations working on this issue in Indonesia. There are the communities themselves, and I would say local government should be probably the prime focus. National government is spread so thin over such a huge country that we really need researchers to be engaging in multiple places to deliver evidence, locally based evidence in many of the different cities and urban areas and rural areas. So my thought would be local government should be a key stakeholder to get to know. And what I would say about making sure that research is relevant and useful is that to deliver research that has impact, that isn't just something that's written up and put on a shelf. There are some different facilitators that help with that. And it's about having a good engagement with the context and the users of the research. And that's why I put those actors up, because they're the people who might make use of your research. And if they don't know about it, or if they didn't have some input, if we're not helping answer their questions, then they may not use it. So these publications are to help researchers think more about research impact. So lastly, I think I'm still okay on time, yeah? Anyone? A couple more minutes, yeah? 2. Okay.
Yeah, 2 more minutes, more or less.
Okay. So I decided in writing future directions, I didn't want to put up specific topics. I could easily list some of what I see as research priorities, but I actually think what's more important is the collaborative generation of a shared research agenda in Indonesia. And it's wonderful to have Abu Aisha here. And I think you can also reach out to, as I say, to local governments, etc., to work out what are their questions and make sure we're doing research that helps answer the questions that people are facing today and the challenges they're facing. Also to bring together different disciplines, because we won't solve this just with the public health discipline, nor with engineering, nor with sociology, but we need to learn to work together across disciplines. And so hence why I really believe that working in a transdisciplinary way, so with a focus on a problem, developing methodology that can change as you better understand a problem, and collaborating with stakeholders. And that means asking all different kinds of questions, things that disciplines help tell you about what's happening. So the epidemiology, for example, but things about what can we do about it, what do we want to do, and what should we be doing at the values level. So I'm going to skip this next one. Whoops. So this QR code is just a link to many of the different resources that our team here at the Institute for Sustainable Futures has produced. It's dominantly in Asia and the Pacific, and I hope you can find interesting inspiration there for things that you might want to research. So thank you, Daniel. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Juliet, and thank you for your presentations. There are a lot of things, insights that you give to us. And we will continue with the third speaker, last but not least. We have Professor Sri Irianti with us today, and she is the professor at the National Institute of Health Research and Development before. Now the institute changed to BRIN, National Research and Innovation Agency. So yes, you can see here that she also graduated from Australia, obtained her master and PhD from Griffith University, and she conducts also a lot of research in WASH. This is just example, just 4 of them, and if you are interested, you can go directly and read her presentation. So I think I don't want to talk more, and I hand over to Professor Sri Irianti. The floor is yours for 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel. Honorable Ibu Prof. Yayi Surya Purbandari, Ibu Professor Juliet Willets, and also Ibu Aisyah, distinguished lecturers and students, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm honored to participate in such an important webinar today. I would like to share my screen. Sorry, it's I have 4 points to be addressed in this presentation about worst condition affecting child health in Indonesia and research collaboration in the WASH sector, challenges for WASH research in Indonesia, and the last will be future WASH research in Indonesia.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry, Bu. Can you please share screen full screen? Yes. That's better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
and then,
sorry, Prof. Now we see your not your screen. Yes.
Sorry about it. Okay then. Yep.
Yeah, it works.
Thank you. Now we still facing with the burden of infectious diseases and malnutrition related, of course, to WASH services, and also we have several evidence on the relationship between worse and dire disease, but less about the relationship between worse and malnutrition. And driver of stunting reduction in Indonesia has a significant policy implication. And also, Prof. Juliet already mentioned about inequality, disparities in Indonesia. As can be seen that almost all provinces still at the high stunting prevalence as well as overweight prevalence. And then if we look at long time ago, but we have only two national data regarding determinants and including social economic aspect about water-related diseases. So we still use this data to advocate policymaking process, and we use epidemiological analysis is because it's easier to quantify the impact of the modified WAS intervention to achieve to prove that there is a relationship, a significant relationship, and also the role is so obvious if we look at about this data that improve water sanitation is also a good indicator for translating into evidence for policymaker. And also we use also the last data, because the next year will be the newest research for the health basic research conducted by Ministry of Health. And then we use also that different path for the analysis, and also we determine the determinants of the diarrheal disease. And here also we have a good analysis between WAS and stunting, because this is the two infectious disease as well as malnutrition. And then we can see here that was stunting. It's not so good the path value, because stunting is not only was the role of WAS in causing stunting prevalence. And then we can see that not big enough for the area for the ROC curve in determinants of stunting here. And also dealing with still with wasting kurus, balita kurus, and then we can see that kurus and tinggi cukup, tetapi yes, wasting we have only a small value of PAF, but this can be used to advocate policymaker for the evidence-based policy. And then also about underweight, we have also it's not too much for the PAF value, and this is also the determinant of underweight. This is also for the determinant of low birth weight. And dealing with research collaboration in Indonesia, we have a national research master plan until 2055, and we here in Indonesia, our institution has research collaboration scheme, such as mentioned by Prof. Juliet, that we can work together. We also work together with academic communities in doing collaborative research. And then also we can join or participate with the collaboration research. And then we also have existing research, national research with several names. And also we have also knowledge sector initiative, development of Indonesian knowledge sector ecosystem through multi-sector partnership under the philosophy of the triple helix. And also we have education fund management agency, development research scheme, and research pro, etc. And starting this year at BRIN, my institution, we have like 7 research and innovation scheme that we can use for collaboration with any parties in Indonesia, as well as overseas. And also, of course, we have huge challenges for WOS research in Indonesia, as we know that we still only rely on cross-sectional data so far to determine determinants, or it's not good enough to what you call it in terms of methodology. So we have to move to address inequality and social inclusion related WOS with other methodologies, like what we call it implementation research. Professor Juliet also highlighted about the importance of the such methodology, and also we have to what we call it integrate research, WOS research with health programs related to WOS to make sure that we are to achieve like cost-effective model to WOS intervention now. Because when we look at that dealing with the indicator of safely managed drinking water or safely managed sanitation, we have to focus in research dealing with how to increase the quality of water. Based on this indicator, we have to like to study about water safety plans, or also sanitation safety plan that did not really address in Indonesia. But it was good news last month that WHO will what you call it collaborate with Ministry of Health as well as BRIN to develop sanitation safety plan. Because if we only doing water safety plans, without sanitation safety plan, that we can't solve our problem. And yes, you're right, Prof. Juliet, that our data in 2020 not yet appear or display in the snapshot of GMP. That's really questionable. And for the future WAS research in Indonesia, I think we still struggle with the providing sufficient research fund for conducting sound and scientific research that can be translated into appropriate policy design and implementation. Because if we do small research, because of insufficient funding available, that it's what you call it is it's not useful. Therefore, BRIN is the institution that is combine all researchers previously from ministry of 44 ministries and agencies to be pulled together. But we are still facing with the new system because it takes time to arrange what researcher according to the research interest and also background. And then applying WAS research method that more robust to address the effective WAS interventions, such as mixed method, that dealing with WAS is not only infrastructure, but the software of the WAS program should be also highlighted, and also should be focused on determining what people accept or what people reject for the use of the such infrastructure. And then research targeting the component of a system building block. Again, you Prof. Juliet, you mentioned about the last about collaboration, governance, accountability is dealing with the WAS system building block. And then the last is about to integrate WAS with health related program, because it's more cost effective, like WAS and malnutrition program, intervention program, and WAS and AIDS program, and WAS and what you call it, healthcare program, because we understand that even referral hospital in Indonesia is still lack of WAS services. That's what you call it, leading to other diseases like co-infection of other diseases than COVID-19, as well as to what you call it, induce antimicrobial resistance in Indonesia. Thank you. This is back to Dr. Dani, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof. Sri, for your presentations, and I think your slide is relevant to us from the public health perspective. And we will continue with the Q&A session. And Mbak Aini, can you please show us the question? Yeah, we have several questions right now, but Bu Aisyah is going somewhere for a while, so we will continue with a question to Professor Juliet. Can you? I think there are some questions to Professor Juliet, and Yeah, maybe number 4, maybe number 4. I see that's number 4. Yeah. And for question A, I think is relevant to Professor Juliet, and question number B, I think maybe Professor Juliet can answer, but Professor Sri also can help to answer because he conduct a lot of research on relation between stunting and WASH. So for Professor Juliet, some people in several municipalities tend to use the water resource in their area. Even the resource is below standard. I think the quality is below the standard, not doesn't meet the standard. And in this meanwhile, in this condition, drawing water resource from national company is unlikely accessible to some societies which are poor, so it's not affordable for them. So the question is, what is the most important factor associated with this burden, and what is the proper measure to tackle these problems? So I hope you understand the questions.
Yep, great question, Wayu, and thank you. So I would say I wouldn't want to jump to assuming the most important factor. Yeah, I think the point of research is to explore and to investigate. And I think there are a few different angles that one would need to investigate to try and solve the problem that you described there. So one would be to do research that helps ask the community members why they choose particular water sources. Sometimes we make assumptions about what choices people make, or we assume affordability is the driver when in fact it's convenience, or perhaps it's the taste. So first of all, we need to understand the reasoning behind people's choices, because that can then help us understand if one were to shift behaviour, we can understand what their thinking is. Another area would be, you've said that often the services are not affordable. So research that actually looks at that question of affordability, what is the actual ability to pay, what's the willingness to pay, and on the side of the provider of say, perhaps if it's a company providing pipe services, understanding their situation in terms of finances. What are they needing to cost recover? Could they have their prices arranged differently so that there is a subsidised payment that could be affordable? What are the regulations that they're working to? Do those regulations need to be changed? And another area one could look at was if people perhaps need to continue to use that unimproved source that we know might not be healthy, then the research could look at what kinds of household water treatment practices might be possible in this situation, what's available, are there filters, could people boil more, etc. So there are ways to kind of solve the problem without really necessarily solving the root cause, but still to be able to deal with, to make the water safer. So those are some suggestions of types of research that one could do to work out that important factor without jumping to conclusions about what the most important factor is. And on the second one, yes, I think Sri Irianti is probably best placed to talk about this in terms of the relationship between stunting and WASH. I think there is international global research about that relationship, and sometimes we don't need to reprove everything in every single new circumstance. We can lean on international research where it has been, as Irianti mentioned, where you've got sufficient funds to do a rigorous study that has significance in the findings, and we can feel confident about it. And so it is difficult in each situation to reprove some of these connections, but I think as globally we understand that relationship exists, and perhaps we're better placed to use our research efforts around implementation research, as Sri Irianti mentioned, of what kinds of things could we implement and see if they make a difference, and focus our research on creating change and testing and evaluating that change, and not just on the proving. So thanks, and I will hand over.
Thank you, Professor Juliet.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Professor Sri.
Sorry, Dr. Daniel.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I think I will add some information before the B questions. So the A question, I would like to add about, yes, now the Ministry of Health are preparing for the new decree incorporating water safety plan and also the improvement of drinking water surveillance, because we can't implement the water safety plan for the self-supply, because that's our problem. And then self-supply, I mean, the government should also lift the poor from the burden of the safely managed drinking water access, and by providing appropriate technology for the household treatment plant, because that's the only treatment that can be implemented at household level. As we know that for the recent data from Susenas, we still found that more than 90% household boil the water to get the drinkable water without having knowledge to have like more, what you call it, sustainable and cheaper technology like other Southeast Asia countries, and that's our problem as well. And for the B, yes, I think Prof. Juliet agrees that that coverage threshold for WAS, it's important that WAS can have good impact on disease-related WAS. I think, for example, when we see the graph that if the coverage of improved drinking water is high enough, for example, like 80% above, then WAS is, I think, is important aspect to reduce the stunting prevalence, because the relationship between WAS and stunting is not always linear, because it's indirect relationship, because the important thing is stunted children is caused by repeated infection. That's the way why we have to deal with how to prevent repeated infection. But on the first step is to provide prevention by WAS intervention. That's the indirect relationship between WAS and stunting. The condition in WAS and stunting is still high prevalence according to WHO standard, because it's about 20%, but we still have the higher than 20%, 27%, because every year we conduct national data about stunting prevalence, and we found that like decrease for 3 years and then increase again. That's the dynamic of the stunting in Indonesia. And thank you. That's my answer regarding the B question.
Thank you, Prof. Sri. And maybe I just want to add something to the previous answer by Professor Juliet, that affordability is a problem in many places, but from the economic perspective, one of the ways to solve that is to provide more supply. So if there's more supply, the price will go down, but we have problems with supply in many parts of Indonesia. in eastern Indonesia, even in Yogyakarta, there is one district next to us, Gunung Kidul. We have problem with water, so of course for people it's very costly for them to afford the price for water. And maybe I'll continue with the questions to Ibu Aisyah. There's a questions. The first one, yeah, and I think the second one is also related to that one because it's about the local problems and the solutions, which is local context. About the technology options for sanitation with local context, is there any concrete steps from Bappenas for that, or maybe is there any research or collaboration with the university to help the local to solve the local problems or whatever? And please explain in detail how we can contribute in sanitation technology in local context. I think this is questions from people from Ibu Vera, who is from not from Java but from outside Java. So how can people, local institutions outside Java, they can solve the local problems?
Thank you for the questions. And sorry, I just had to receive a call, and I missed out a couple minutes in these presentations. But on the how we contribute with the sanitation technology, in terms of the policy, we actually, like Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of Health, and also Ministry of Villages, and BRIN also, ya Bu Rinda ya. They have a role in this, how to ensure there is a technology that is tested and then can be ready to be used in Indonesian local context. But again, in terms of that, we also still see or face many things, regarding this, how the technology, from how to create the technology itself and how it can be used or ready to be what you call diproduksi secara massal gitu ya. This is something also the issue that hamper again the informed choice. So we can have many informed choice to the people, and they can choose what is the best option for them, including the affordability, the willingness them to connect and etc. And what the academia can do, as example in Makassar. Makassar, in one of the slum area, we try to do a collaborative action with Monash University and also Unhas, and we go to the field, we choose those fields, and we try the alternative way to solve the problem of those area in Unsia, in Makassar. So it is also the role of the local government and also the academia, especially that is the nearest of their, what do you call the region, to also see the problem and have a partnership with the local government, so the options solution can be found. This is something that is not yet many to be found, and of course, after we already tested the technology, is it appropriate or not? Like I mentioned, I just, like a week ago, we just found out in one of this regency in Indonesia, they create a septic tank, but they call it septic tank. But when we see, it's a septic tank with only 1 day detention time. It is used for the people who live in coastal area, and they put what do you call it, carpet to the septic tank. So it's actually not a septic tank, right? If we put carpet in it, and then after 1 day, the septic tank needs to be open and then flush to the post area. Again, there is many things that we need to hand in hand to go together. We need to nurture this how environment, to create the local solution. But again, we have to ensure also, especially this is in the government role, to ensure that it's the right technology, not something that is also, it's just like move the problem way. It's not like that. So one of the way that we also create in Indonesia is together with Minister of Public Works and also BRIN in here, and also UNICEF, we create incubits, what we call. There is a website for that where people can submit, like the startup, like the innovator can propose their ideas, their prototype, and then be tested. And after that, of course, the BRIN and the Minister of Public Works help them if it is already tested and can be, distributed or be implemented in those area that is needed. So this is what is the activities or the things that we are doing for now. Yeah, many things in this local context that need to be solved. In the water, also we see that problem, where many people already have access to bore pump, or maybe the shallow borehole, shallow pump. But again, it is very brackish or very high in FA and MN. And actually, it is maybe easier for FA and MN because many technology is actually already available. But there is no way or communication between the community with the local government. They do not know where they to have to, solve the problem. They do not raise those problems because sometimes they feel like, as long as I do have water at home, it's fine, even though the quality is not there yet. Or maybe the local government, after they bring the infrastructure, they never come back. So that's why the role of the health district is really important. We have known for a long time STBM. It is a really good program in Indonesia. But what we now tend to forget is when we ignite or trigger the people awareness, we forget if once the people is change their behavior, is going to change forever. What we have to build is the sustainable triggering, where actually the sanitarian here regularly need to meet with the community to ensure their behavior is still sustained, and there's no problem when they already aware. We have an issue what we call slippage, where people that are already aware not to do the OGF, but then they become to practice OD again, because there is no monitoring from the local government, or maybe because they cannot solve their own solution. They cannot afford to build their own toilet that meet their local context, that sometimes is very expensive. Though that's where the area of the government, all the academia and stakeholders need to be there. Like also maybe the companies that live near them to help to find the solution. And the principle that now is in STBM, like a year ago, it said that the people cannot be subsidized by governments, including the poorest, if they cannot sustain their behavior up to 2 years. So we changed that, because as fast as the people already change their awareness, those infrastructure need to be also ready to solve the problem. Because again, the behavior can be back to the past behavior, to the bad behaviors, if all the pillars like the technical aspect, the regulations, the operator is not also ready. So it should be five those pillars that need to be there. Maybe that's from me, Mas Daniel.
Thank you, Bu Aisyah, for there's an answer from Professor Juliet in the chat, and I think it's very related to what just Bu Aisyah said, that technology should be a mass product, and people, if the more people using it, and the price will go down, and technology can help to solve the problems, the affordability problems. And I just want to highlight one thing, a very important point from Bu Aisyah, that there are a lot of funds and opportunities for us to develop new technology. If you just invest in new technology, or if you want to upgrade and you want to test it in the field, there are a lot of funds you can contact. There are many changes, I think, from the university, from the government, also from the Ministry of Education, and you can apply to them, so you can just test your technology, your startup products and everything, and it can help to solve the local problems. So there are many changes for that. And because we don't have much time, I have one final questions to Professor Joet and Professor Sri. Maybe can you, the question number 5, very short questions, but yeah. From the perspective of international or national researcher, what are the challenges? Maybe just 1 or 2 challenges to conduct a good WAS research in Indonesia, and how can we solve that? What should we change from your perspective? Yes.
Who first?
Oh yeah, Professor Sri. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Is Prof. Juliet first or me?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dani. I think that's I catch the message of Prof. Juliet that research questions should be from the what you call health manager, yeah. So before we doing research, so the stakeholders should agree what will we do, and then the research question we can obtain from them, and we together researchers here as facilitators to do the research, and then we work together until the evaluation process, as well as after sometimes the study end, and then we have to follow regularly. That can be done so far in the certain community, like why Cambodia, why Bangladesh, as well as Peru, they can fight the and reduce stunting prevalence significantly. Why I think we can do either to adopt this system, and also yes, I already mentioned about the challenge. We here at my institution, we provide funds not only for brain researchers, but only for collaboration with academic communities, and then we can develop a good research proposal multi-years, and we can have like a real output, so measurable output, and then after that we can like scaling up, like Bu Aisyah said that sometimes we do the small implementation research, and then they said enough, but it's not enough. We can to scale up to other area or similar area, but also we still facing community acceptance, because to some extent here in Indonesia, it's difficult to sanitation is more difficult than water, because in terms of the rank of the need, as well as in terms of this is public goods or private good. That's the and defecation. Open defecation will be always happen in Indonesia because some communities believe that we can what do you call it defecate in the confined place like that's the problem. And we still have like 2.5% open defecation today compared to Myanmar and also Bangladesh. So we are shame at sorry Bu Aisyah, it's youth burden on you to work out to overcome the problem. And also you back to Prof. Juliet maybe for
yeah. Yes, thank you, Professor Juliet. Very short.
Yep, very short. Yep. So my comment on what Indonesian researchers should do differently, it relates to what which Rianti said, and you would get it from my presentation, I think. A focus on engagement and collaboration, and 3 different levels. First level, engagement and collaboration with people in a different discipline from you. So if you're health, then work with a sociologist or an engineer, and vice versa, at least with one other discipline, so that you're looking a little bit more holistically. Number 2, with government and other actors, so that we're answering the questions as described that people are trying to solve today, and then the research will be relevant and be used. And the 3rd level of engagement and collaboration is internationally, so that you're not just within Indonesia, but you're understanding what's being done in other countries, as Rianti described. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Over to you, Danny.
Thank you, Prof. Juliet. And yes, because we don't have much time, hopefully we can organize another seminar to discuss it further. And before I close the session and I hand over back to our MC, I want to share a bit about the Indonesia WAS Symposium. But yes, let me. Okay, I hope everyone can see the screen that there is a. Yeah, we are planning to conduct our Indonesia WAS Symposium next year. So if you are interested to, and this is a collaboration between international and national organization, universities, and also the government. So if you are interested, you can go directly to the link. And maybe I just want to add important point that the symposium will be fully online and free of charge. And the deadline for the abstract, if you want to present your study there, is end of this year. And the symposium will be in March. And the output will be in the abstract collections. And also, if you are interested to publish in the international scientific journal, you can do that. And this is also free. So Q3 and Q2. So this is a very good journal. So I encourage everyone, students, researcher, lecturer, you can submit your abstract there, and we will select your abstract. And the themes, there are 4 themes there. The first one is regulation, policies, and institution. The second one is about water utilities management. The third one, WAS science and technology. And the last one is social, behavioral, and economic aspect of WAS. But yeah, you can go directly to the website there. But it's still in progress because there are many institutions coming out to join the board, so we still need to upgrade the website. But you can just go there and submit your abstract there, and we will wait until the end of this year. I think that's from me. I just want to remind you that the presentations are in the drive. You can download. I think the link is already provided in the chat box. And thank you again for all speakers, Bu Aisyah, Professor Juliet, and Professor Sri. And hopefully we can collaborate in other occasions. And I hand over back to Mbak Aini, our MC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Daniel. Thank you very much to all the speakers who already joined us today. Thank you, Ibu Nur Aisyah, Professor Juliet, and also Prof. Sri Irianti. And last but not least, thank you very much to Dr. Daniel for bringing us to a very productive session today. And ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite you to join us in the online photo session. And so please turn on your camera. Dan Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, kami akan melakukan sesi foto online. Jadi kami mohon untuk menyalakan kamera Anda masing-masing. Oke, untuk panitia yang bertugas, apakah sudah bisa? Oke, dalam hitungan 1, 2, dan 3. Once more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, once more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the closing session of today's Wednesday webinar. And on behalf of the organizing committee, the Public Health Program, Faculty of Medicine, Public Health and Nursing, Universitas Gadjah Mada, we would like to say thank you for your active participation today. And stay safe and stay healthy and have a great day ahead. I am Aini Azizah signing off. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you everyone.
Terima kasih semuanya, Pak Daniel,
Terima kasih.
Juliet, see you again, and Bu Rinda and Bu Aini.
Terima kasih.